institutional power tropes, the left-wing anti-Semites will sometimes allege, oh, Jews have disproportionate influence in politics and media and other.
Was this the beginning of the timestamp? Or am I looking at the Charlie Kirk bit? Vashi opens the clip. Yeah, but that's earlier.
Parade of these miserable Upper East Side zealots that have a lot of money. The lords of easy money connected to Wall Street.
What is this haircut? What is this?
Hedge fund titans of all sorts of industry.
He looks like a plushie of himself.
All sorts of industry.
Larry David is increasingly the target of right-wingers because Larry David doesn't give an F anymore. And he is straight up saying, the Trumpists are disgusting. I don't care if they don't like my show, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Go away. You make no difference to me. And this is really riling up a lot of right-wingers, including Charlie Kirk. Now, this is going to be a very instructive clip that I'm going to play. I've talked before about right-wing anti-Semitism and left-wing anti-Semitism. There's lots of anti-Semitism across the political spectrum. I'm going to give you an example here of right-wing anti-Semitism.
That's good. You know, perfectly. We're dipping our toes into this one here.
It's just typical playing on Jewish tropes of Jews all being complaining Woody Allen types. And that's literally what Charlie Kirk says about Larry David. Now, I just want to remind you, the reason that they are so angry with Larry David, you know, season 1, 2, 3 of Curb, far less political. It was funny. Larry David's hilarious.
I haven't seen Curb Your Enthusiasm ever. I've never seen it.
We love it. Now that Larry David is becoming much more political as the show winds down, Curb Your Enthusiasm, now they're furious. Now he's not funny. And now Charlie Kirk is playing up anti-Semitic tropes. Take a listen and then we'll discuss this.
Man, he's really lost his fastball. That's Larry David, who used to be a really funny guy. People would ask, you know, Charlie, do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm? I never liked Larry David.
Right.
He is not the brains of the operation of Seinfeld. It was obviously Jerry or somebody else. He's a baby. He's sick. Larry David, you perfectly just showed us exactly what is going on tonight at this New York fundraiser.
What is this even in reference to? What New York fundraiser? I feel like context is missing from the beginning of this video. What did he do? What did he say? Is Larry David progressive? I don't know. I don't know anything about him.
This is the Upper East crew. Tonight, around 4 or 5 p.m., you might as well just close down the streets. There will be a parade of these miserable Upper East Side zealots that have a lot of money. The lords of easy money connected to Wall Street, hedge fund, titans of all sorts of industry.
Yeah, how many like synonyms can you list off without just saying Jewish?
And they're just going to go right down Park Avenue. They're going to go right down.
Why is he speaking like a preacher? The reason he's speaking the way that he is all of a sudden is because he's signaling to his audience that he's dog whistling. When you normally talk in a matter-of-fact way, but then you start talking like these zealots, these titans of industry, you're indicating that you're saying something but meaning like something adjacent to it. It's pretty common, and once you notice people doing it, for the most part, people do it like in a deliberate way where everyone's supposed to know, right? Like you could say, you know, oh yeah, my mother-in-law, that wonderful woman, you know, like it, right? You hear that all the time.
Down Fifth Avenue to the New York City Radio Hall to have in their own mind a religious experience. Tonight is essentially group therapy. Tonight is essentially $100,000, $250,000 for group therapy. Be among the other mentally deranged people in New York.
Is this not just a regular fundraiser? It's just a regular fundraiser they're talking about? Raked in more than $25 million in one night? Whew, pretty good. I mean, seems like a pretty successful fundraiser.
That live very shallow lives. You know what's really interesting is it's obvious that ever since Donald Trump came on the scene, Larry David is not as happy of a person as he once was. He's really never been that happy. I think he's an atheist. He's snarky. He's your typical kind of New York Woody Allen type that is constantly complaining and is, you know, thinks he could be really funny. By the way, that clip, he's a baby.
These are all coded anti-Semitic tropes. Every single one of them. Every single one. So this is a great opportunity to talk about right-wing anti-Semitism versus left-wing anti-Semitism. There is overlap between the two, but they are different. Right-wing anti-Semitism is often much more ethno-nationalist. It's rooted in either white supremacy or white nationalist ideologies. The idea that Jews are an other, they threaten racial purity, they threaten national purity.
I mean, I don't disagree with anything that Deepak is saying right now.
More Nazi-like. Right-wing anti-Semitism is more traditionally Nazi-like. The conspiracy theories from the right-wing anti-Semites tend to be about, sometimes they call it Zog, Zionist-occupied government, or a conspiracy for Jewish control of the world, including specific industries, as Charlie Kirk alludes, titans of industry and Wall Street and this and that. Holocaust denial tends to be right-wing anti-Semitism, either denying altogether or diminishing the severity of the Holocaust in order to undermine Jewish history and suffering. There are also cultural preservation claims. We saw this like when I interviewed Richard Spencer, where Jews, some of them might pass as white people, but Jews undermine traditional values and national identity and cultural homogeneity. And then religious bigotry is often there as well. Now, it's important to know a lot of the anti-Semitism against Jews, left and right, is not religiously oriented. Jews are an ethno-religious group. So there may be...
This is true. This is all true. The reason I'm not pausing it is because he hasn't said anything disagreeable.
Religious bigotry, but there may not be. Now, on the other hand, we have left-wing anti-Semitism. Left-wing anti-Semitism often is shrouded in a critique of so-called global capitalism, blaming Jews for the problems associated with capitalism, the financial crises, economic inequality. It draws on stereotypes of Jewish greed or control. Again, overlap with the right. The right doesn't criticize capitalism.
I disagree with this completely. The right constantly criticizes capitalism, but does so by like invoking Soros or Jewish stereotypes. Like the Nazis were very anti-capitalism in like, you know, giant quotation marks, but it was really just a way for them to attack Jewish people, right? Like it's what is it? The anti-Semitism is the stupid man's anti-capitalism. I think, I mean, there are definitely left-wing people who like blur that line, but a lot of them, I wouldn't even consider them left-wing. You have these like pro-Russia types that are obviously right-wing in every conceivable way, and then they're weirdly anti-Semitic too. There are a lot of structural critiques of capitalism. Okay, I should be clear. They're not critiques of capitalism. What fascists or Nazis will do is they will identify the fact that people are economically anxious and unhappy with certain economic systems, and then they'll draw attention to those systems only as it allows them to attack Jewish people, you know? You know, it's not like they don't really care, right? It's not like Nazis actually give a shit about economic inequality.
Left will sometimes criticize capitalism and include in that, entrench in that, left-wing anti-Semitism. Cultural and institutional power tropes. The left-wing anti-Semites will sometimes allege, oh, Jews have disproportionate influence in politics and media and other power structures. Similar to the right, but different. It's
I feel like I just only see this from the right, really. If anything, I feel like the I do think there are types of anti-Semitism that lean more towards the left. For me, the big left-wing anti-Semitism thing that I see come up over and over again is the belief that because Jewish people are on average relatively well off economically in America, which is complicated historical reasons, but they are a minority socially and numerically, but economically they do relatively well. That some left-leaning people whose analysis only includes capital, right, like actual wealth, economic markers, they will then go, oh, well, because Jewish people are doing well economically on average, that means they're not oppressed. When of course Jewish people are subject to so many hate crimes. It's a lacking analysis.
Its own thing. And an interesting one that's exclusive to left-wing anti-Semitism is the misuse of intersectionality. We saw...
Oh, this might be that.
This with the Women's March. We've seen it with Black Lives Matter to a degree. Leftist circles that talk about intersectionality, but say, oh, no. Jewish issues are minimized or ignored altogether because of perceived Jewish privilege. So...
I think I see some of this. A little bit. Another big thing that isn't quite like lefty anti-Semitism, but it kind of like bridges the gap between left and right anti-Semitism, is you get it from like black people, like Blitler shit, right? Where it's like black people will be like, you know, oh, we are kept down in the record music and Hollywood industries or whatever because of like Jewish prominence in those industries, and they start doing like JQ shit, but they do it from the perspective of a marginalized group, and then sometimes left-leaning people will go, because I remember when Kanye first went down the Hitler path, you know, that there were lefties who were being weirdly like deferential, kind of, you know, a little more charitable than you would be if they were white. The same with Nick Cannon, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think there's a vulnerability there. That's also a weaponization of intersectionality, I feel.
Jewish strife is often marginalized or dismissed by left-wing anti-Semitism within the social justice movements. And then also sometimes we see a moral double standard when it comes to American Jews from the left-wing anti-Semites. You often see this with regard to Israel painting American Jews with the brush of Israeli domestic policy and demanding answers and denouncements and this sort of thing, something that when the right does it with Muslims.
Yes, that does happen. Yeah. There are definitely people who like paint with a broad brush, and they're like, oh, because, you know, Israeli Zionists are doing this or that, it's like, ah, well, American Jews, you must answer to this. Yeah, that happens for sure.
Left-wingers correctly criticize it, then they apply it to Jews. So important to understand Charlie Kirk's example here, classic right-wing anti-Semitism.
Okay, yeah, I get the point of the video. I don't think I really fundamentally disagree with much David Pakman is saying here. Though I feel like that Charlie the Charlie Kirk stuff, I didn't get a lot of context in that, you know? There was a lot there that I didn't understand much about. That does happen, but it's BS, but I blame the fuck out of Israel for that. Yes, Israel has made it, like, Israel has done a lot to advance the cause of anti-Semites by being wretched and then saying it represents all Jewish people. That is Israel's fault. Of course, Israel might be responsible for that in like a broad social sense, but on any individual level, even if Israel is maximizing the likelihood of that happening, you're still responsible for doing the anti-Semitism. Yeah, they benefit from the conflation. Exactly. Do you agree that leftist anti-Semitism is a critique of capitalism? No, I disagree with Deepak on that one. I think that overwhelmingly, when you see people talk about, like, when they try to code anti-Semitism into a critique of, like, big business or whatever, it's a right-wing thing. There are left-leaning people who do it, but I think overwhelmingly that's a right-wing tendency, because right-wingers can't actually critique capital because they agree with it, right? So instead, they have to displace the negative outcomes of capitalism onto a minority group, you know? They don't actually want to change the system. What they want to do is take people's anger at the system and displace it onto a marginalized community that they can then oppress or kill, you know, and you know, make a sacrificial lamb of them, so to speak. So you're saying Israel does more to create anti-Semitism than the other way around? I don't know what the other way around would mean, but yes, Israel creates an enormous amount of anti-Semitism. Some of the anti-Semitism that Israel creates is unavoidable because its presence there just agitates local Arab neighbors. I'm not blaming Israel for that necessarily, even though I don't think Israel should have been created to begin with. Now that it already exists, I'm not going to blame Israel for the latent anti-Semitism that it brings out in its neighboring communities. However, there's also a lot of active anti-Semitism that they sort of effectively promote with their behavior. Israel hasn't exactly done a lot to ingratiate itself to the, you know, to its neighbors. Well, I don't, Nanawood. I don't think that's leftist. You know, like they say, Hitler also criticized the banks, but Hitler didn't actually have a problem with banks or loans or debt. He had a problem with Jews. His criticism of the banks was just a way of directing economic insecurity from German people and the anger that, from that, you know, to Jewish people. But it's not like Hitler then went on to, like, radically democratize the economy afterwards. He did the opposite. He privatized it. Yeah, the inner city DEI banks, exactly. I don't care for it, Intelligent Donkey. I don't think that his perspective on that is very informed or interesting, to be honest. Did you see the video of the pro-Palestinian protester calling people leaving the Biden fundraiser the K-slur? It's all over Israeli propaganda liberal Twitter. No, I haven't seen that. Okay, wait. Credit to Deepak on this. I will say this. One thing that the left is really bad about is identifying people who are literally just right-wing Arab nationalists who are operating under the guise of being pro-Palestinian. The left is so bad about this. They did the same thing with Kanye West, where there will be like a literal Blitler type, and they'll be like, well, hold on, we have to listen to the voices of marginalized. No, there are lots of people who are pro-Palestinian who just hate Jews, and they're not left-wing, you know? You actually, there was a tweet that I saw that I thought was funny, where it was like, there's a very specific kind of guy, but there's a lot of that guy. And it's like, before October 7th, they were tweeting about how, you know, women need to know their place and like cover their hair up when around men. And then on October 7th, they were tweeting like glory to jihad. And then after October 7th, they were tweeting, you know, like in solidarity with the Palestinians who have been fighting against Israeli apartheid for decades. We must not, where you have people who are just like conservative Muslims who are identifying an opportunity to attack Israel, you know, and from a progressive angle, basically. Like, if you're screaming the case slur at Jewish people outside of a fundraiser, I'm very sorry. You're not. This is not a left-wing argument, my friends. This is as a matter of fact a little anti-Semitic. I feel, you know. Content warning, case slur. I think YouTube will have an issue with it, so I'm just going to mute desktop audio and listen to it myself. Just take a second. Yep, that's the case slur. All right, confirmed. I thought they might have been saying the C slur for a second, but no, he said it twice. I unmuted desktop audio. Thank you for reminding me, Sally. First word was a C slur, second was a K slur. Oh, okay, there we go. That tracks. What about the lefties I hear say that every person has a different perspective, their anti-Semitism has to be graded in a curve? Yeah, everyone has a different perspective. Some perspectives are worse than others. You know? Sorry, I give less than 0 shits about the perspective on Israel from some like conservative Arab Muslim. Are you kidding me? Oh yeah, like your plans for the Middle East are so good. Yeah, you have great ideas for how things should be run, you know? What's your problem with the way Israel handles the Gaza Strip? Too much hair on display? F off. Yeah, like no. I do not to this defer to the wisdom of the crowds. You know, the Arab states are not exactly a tranquil haven of democracy. Neither, of course, is Israel. But the difference being there is that, you know, we don't treat the UAE like our greatest ally. Also, we know their perspective, and it can still be bad. I think leftists need more of this approach. The only perspective on the matter that I'm really interested in is those of the Palestinians. You know? Like, why would I give a shit what some Saudi guy thinks? Or some Egyptian guy thinks? Why? Like, literally, why? Well, because they're Arab too? Isn't that weird? That's a kind of, like, weird anti-Arab racism that I see on the left, where they assume that because they're all Arab, they all get along. Do you know how politics works? Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, do all white Americans have the same opinions on stuff? What are you talking about? Yeah, it's Orientalist, you know? Oh, it's the Middle East, it's the Far East, you know, those people, they're all cut from the same cloth, you know, from the Arab dunes, you know? What are you on about? Ridiculous. How legal is it for politicians to take money from foreign governments via AIPAC? AIPAC gets its money from America. Well, money can flow into the country from other places, but AIPAC isn't like a foreign group. AIPAC is an American lobbying group. I'm sorry, you think the money that AIPAC has comes from Israel? No, 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 no. Destiny said, I think other Arab countries should help Palestine. Destiny officially endorsing Houthis firing missiles into Israel. Destiny joining Hezbollah and marching south from Lebanon to retake the land. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, okay, let's do it. It's been a while since Israel got to rapidly expand its borders. Now, I don't know how well they do this time. You know, the rest of the Middle East has developed quite a bit. If every other Arab nation took them on all at once at the same time, not that it would happen, of course. I mean, Hezbollah would cause them some trouble, but, you know, Israel would win given some time. Egypt isn't going to attack Israel. They have nukes. Yeah, well, that's the wacky one, you know. That's the wacky road.